What's going on with the HVAC refrigerant change? New environmental legislation requires HVAC manufacturers in the U.S. to incorporate low-GWP refrigerants into their product lines. That means heat pumps and air conditioner systems that use refrigerants with a global warming potential above 700 will not be manufactured after December 31st, 2024. The new R454B refrigerant falls into a category called A2L, which refers to a class of refrigerants with low toxicity and low flammability. But is it safe? Safety protocols for new R454B and past refrigerants are largely the same, with many of the best practices commonly used today still applicable. However, there will be some new protocols pertaining specifically to A2L refrigerant to be aware of. To learn more about the A2L refrigeration transition and Bosch's initiatives, check out Bosch-Home Comfort, US/A2L.
Once the unit started, it can go down to minus like 25. We actually had a testing with DOE assigned, a lab in Oak Ridge. The lowest temperature that lab can achieve is minus 30 degrees, and the unit still running, never shut down.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
And think about if we just step back 20 years in our industry, we really got to a point where we would look at a heat pump and go, at 40 degrees, probably turn it off. It's not keeping you comfortable.
Yes.
In today's society, we can relook at that stigma and go, a lot of things have changed and technology has done that.
Yes.
And when we put it all together into a package,
here we go.
all right, everyone, thank you for joining us once again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC Show. We're so glad that you've taken the time to hang out with us today. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the transitions that we are encountering for equipment as well as refrigerants. So you're probably familiar with the terms A2L and low GWP. Well, what does that mean? What does it look like in the equipment that is now being introduced into the industry? Well, we're so fortunate to have two of our major manufacturers on the show today to talk about this transition. So we have Bosch here to talk about their brand new lineup of A2L equipment, as well we have Honeywell to talk about the A2L Refrigerant Solstice R454B that is going to be utilized in this product line. So as usual, thank you all for joining us. We want to know where you're joining in from. Osvaldo, thank you for being here today. Let us know in the chat, everybody, where you are joining from, because we'd really like to know how large our community of HVAC is growing. So I'm here in Brownsburg, Indiana. Let's do a round of introductions. I'm going to start out here on our presentation with Bosch, and introduce yourselves and let us know your involvement in the industry. Shaz.
Clifton, thank you for having us. Great to be here. My name is Shaz Sayed, and I'm the Engineering Applications and Training Manager at Bosch Home Comfort. I've been with Bosch for about 6 years in various different roles. Honored to be part of the growth that this division has experienced over that time, and looking forward to talking to you.
Excellent. And Phil?
Hello, Clifton. Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Raines. I'm an application engineer with Bosch Home Comfort. I've been in the HVAC industry for over 50 years, serving in many different roles, including having been a contractor. The last 14 of those years, I've been with Bosch as a trainer and an application engineer. My role is to provide training and engineering assistance to our Bosch partners, including distributors, reps, and their contractors.
Excellent.
I'm delighted to be here on behalf of Bosch to help with this transition.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. So let's move over to Honeywell. Ron, you want to start us out?
Yeah, Clifton, good afternoon, everyone. Ron Vogel, technical resource here at Honeywell. Been in the industry a little over 40 years. I've been with Honeywell for 20 years. Refrigerant development, tech service, marketing assist, et cetera. Glad to be here and talking today. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Doug Starosinek, also at Honeywell, technical services. I work with end users, contractors, distributors, and help them with these new A2L refrigerants. So glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and hi everybody. This is Anjali Kataria, also from Honeywell. I'm an offering manager, very excited to bring our Solstice 454B to the market, and glad to be here with our partners at Bosch, talking all about this new industry transition to A2Ls. So thank you, Clifton.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want you all to know how much we appreciate this. As an industry, not very often do we get to spend time doing firsthand education with the technical and the engineering side of our manufacturers. And so here we have two major manufacturers that are taking their time to make sure that an industry is well prepared for this transition. And we applaud both of you so much. There are going to be a lot of people out here today that are going to have questions. There are so many popping up into the chat right now. We're just excited to see all of you. And I want you to know that we're here to serve you, to help you be prepared for this transition. So put some of your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to some of those as we go. At the very end, we'll have a time where we'll dive deeper into those. So we're going to go ahead and start the presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Honeywell out for just a little bit. And we're going to spend time with our Bosch presenters, and then we'll go back and forth. So you'll see the screen change in a little bit, and that's just us on the background, just trying to keep the screen not so full so that you can focus on the presentation. So everyone's going to be here. They're just going to be staging in and out along the way. So let's go ahead and dive into the Bosch side of the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Clifton. Yeah, quick introduction on Bosch. I'll go through this fairly quickly. Bosch is a global leader in technology and services, employing around 427,000 associates worldwide. In 2023, we achieved close to $100 billion in USD in sales across 4 business sectors, which are mobility, industrial technology, consumer goods, and energy and building technology. Bosch is also one of the largest non-public companies in the world, which allows the company the flexibility to reinvest in our technology, in our people, and the development of our associates in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
An interesting fact, Bosch is also one of the largest manufacturers of the automotive components and supplies these components to nearly all major automotive brands throughout USA. Home Comfort, North America, falls under the Energy and Building Technology division of Bosch. The Home Comfort division in North America, it has been grown nearly double-digit over the last 5 years, mainly driven by the heat pump technology.
Yeah, I'm sure. Excellent.
A little bit more about Bosch Home Comfort. Our motto is simple: make home comfort green. That is our purpose, the reason why our company exists, and why we work with this motivation. We at Bosch Home Comfort Group, we are making a decisive contribution to the energy transition with our size, experience, and strength as part of the global Bosch Group. We're convinced at Home Comfort that green technology must go hand in hand in order to achieve the climate targets.
Yeah, we absolutely agree. There's going to be so much new technology in a short period of time, and that's what we're here to do. Is we're here to talk about all these transitions to get people comfortable, because we are going through a technological transition as well as a refrigerant transition at the same time. And so the only way to be prepared for this is to spend time with firsthand information from our manufacturers of equipment and refrigerants and from our trade associations, and so we stay up to date with things as they're changing.
Absolutely. A little bit about our portfolio. As one of the few companies in the United States offering a comprehensive range of HVAC solutions in North America, we, Bosch Home Comfort, take pride in being a leader in providing high-quality water heating and comfort systems. Our inverter ducted split system has been one of the leaders in premium heat pump sector and driving the need for high-efficiency heat pumps in the North American market. Our offering includes Bosch tankless heat pumps, electric water heaters, boilers, geothermal, and many others. We also provide controls and accessories for each of these product lines, allowing a seamless integration.
Yeah, a lot of good things going on here in the world of Bosch. All right, so we're going to transition over for a minute. So we'll see you here in just a couple. We'll be right back here, and we're going to bring in our Honeywell team. And we're going to dive a little deeper into the Honeywell introduction side of things. So who's going to start off here? Let's dive into
What do we got?
all the different products that fall into the Honeywell Solstice side of things.
All right. So we're here to talk about Honeywell's newest offering, Solstice 454B. However, that is not all that Solstice is.
Right.
So at Honeywell, our Solstice HFO solutions span a wide range of end-use applications, from refrigerants that can be used in automotives, in heating and cooling your homes, in industries, in retail food refrigeration, and the list is really endless. But in addition to that, we also have HFO solutions in the foam insulation market, where our HFOs are used in appliances, in residential applications, commercial applications, and many, many more applications on the foam and blowing agent side. As well as on the pharmaceutical side of things, we have our Solstice ultra low GWP solutions today being used in metered dose inhalers, as well as pharmaceutical packaging, and also aerosols. So a sunscreen or even a hairspray has Solstice HFO solutions. So really excited to be here again and share with you our Solstice 454B offering, and the impact that's created through these Solstice solutions.
I think it's very important that we talk about slides like this, because many people think that it's just the HVAC or just the refrigeration sectors that are being impacted by these HFC phase downs. And it's not. We have so many different industrial and manufacturing sectors that are going through this exact same refrigerant transition as well. We don't always think about things like foam blowing applications or our propellants and solvents that we're utilizing. I did a show a while back tracing the history of propellants to help people understand that there was a time that we used R12 as a propellant for insecticides. And so we've used a variety of refrigerants as propellants over the years. And so many different industries are taking this very, very significant approach to HFC phase downs. And so there's a lot of people going through difficulties, not just us. So we're just here to make sure that everyone is well informed about all of these changes as we move through them.
Very good point, Lifton, and a lot of new solutions to go with that, right?
Exactly.
So we're excited to talk about it. And again, with Solstice HFO solutions, we've made a lot of positive impact on the environment, with over 400 million metric tons of carbon dioxide that has been reduced as a result of the use of these HFO solutions. So the impact is large, and we're excited to be part of it, and we're excited to share that story with all of you today joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you know a lot of these products.
Yeah, I know. So this is really exciting. It's one of my favorite slides here, but this really shows us the breadth of different applications that our refrigerants are used in today. So as Honeywell, we have a very wide variety of different classes of refrigerants. We have the newer A2L mildly flammable refrigerants, as well as our A1 non-flammable refrigerants that serve a wide variety of end-use markets, from food retail to transport refrigeration, to ice rinks, automotives, to cooling and heating your homes and your offices, and data centers, right? So really everywhere we look and all the applications that we're looking at, we're using refrigerants. So if you are interested in learning more about any of the refrigerants that you see on this slide here, or how we can help you with the use of these refrigerants in your applications, please reach out to us. We have our technical experts here as well, and we'd be happy to walk you through it.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for, providing information, providing solutions, and giving you the resources. And we'll dive even deeper and talk about resources as we go through of how to connect with Honeywell, how to connect with Bosch, and make sure that you have all of the resources that you need to be successful in your career and in these transitions. All right, so we're going to go back real quick. We're going to bring our team from Bosch back through, and we're going to dive a little bit into why this is happening, and then we'll get deeper into the products themselves.
All right, thank you. So let's briefly cover the AIM Act, which is the main driver behind this refrigerant transition. At Bosch Home Comfort, we have now begun the transition of our heat pumps to low-GWP R454B refrigerant. Why is this transition necessary? The first reason, and the most important, is that the AIM Act regulations dictates the pricing, availability, and the use of current refrigerants in the various HVAC applications.
Sure.
Second, there will be a restriction on installing HVAC systems after January 1st, 2026, which uses a refrigerant with GWP of greater than 700.
Yeah.
To comply with this regulation, Bosch has decided to revamp our heat pump product line and utilize R454B, which has a GWP of 466.
Yeah, a lot of people look at those sell-throughs that we'll have at that 12-month sell-through period, getting us up until January 2026. But our manufacturers are mandated to no longer manufacture after December 31st of this year. So that's a lot going on. So we're going to talk about these products as we're being launched, because a lot of these, like the ones we're talking about today, are going to be in your hands very soon, if they're not already starting to show up.
Yep. In order to understand or make sense of this whole thing, there are a lot of key terms or difficult terms that I saw for the first time over the last year. So to make sense of this, there are some key definitions that will be, or some acronyms even, that may be thrown at you throughout the presentation. A couple of them that I would like to highlight: low-GWP simply stands for low global warming potential. It's a rating system to measure the global warming potential. For ACs and heat pumps, the requirement will be a value of less than 700 GWP to be compliant. It was a measurement developed by the EPA to allow comparisons of different gases, including HVAC refrigerant, and it is a common use of measurements for greenhouse gas emissions. It is also helpful analysis for policymakers involved in the terms of decision making around the climate change.
Have some numbers.
So, in simplest terms, GWP is a measure of how much energy the emission of 1 ton of gas will absorb over a given period of time relative to the emissions of 1 ton of carbon dioxide, and allows for comparisons of the destructiveness of a refrigerant and its global warming impact due to the greenhouse effect. Another one that I just want us to be familiarized with is the HFC. It is a blended refrigerant containing hydrogen, fluorine, and carbon. An example of the R410A, which is one of the refrigerants that is being phased out. Finally, the AIM Act, which mandates a 15-year phase down of HFCs at a national level, which is administered by the EPA and aligns with the Kigali Amendment Schedule.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that when we began that a couple of years ago, we started that phase down, and we're now at a 40% reduction of those baseline manufacturing of HFCs, contributed from their GWP. So this transition is well underway. We get a lot of questions here at ESCO as, hey, when's all this going to begin? Well, it began is the actual term, and the equipment is beginning to show up. So we want to make sure that you're well prepared for that.
Correct.
Okay. We want to do one of these or catch these later?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's probably not, we'll let users and kind of read through this, but yeah, there is other terminologies like refrigerant concentration limit, FCL, and lower flammability limit. All of these that we will go through in the presentation
in a little bit. Absolutely.
All right, so a little bit of the industry changes and the transition focus. Obviously, the transition focus to a low GWP will include switching to new refrigerants or A2L refrigerants such as R454B in the HVAC industry. Most equipment manufacturers, including Bosch, of course, will design, test, certify, and fabricate the new low GWP enabled R454B equipment. Equipment manufacturers will also institute new product installation, operation, and repair criteria for the low GWP enabled equipment. Secondly, the Department of Transportation, DOT, which will mandate the requirements for shipping mildly flammable refrigerant gases with existing rules in place. And there are currently no new rules for the low GWP refrigerant. There will also be new building and fire codes for A2L refrigerant, dictating the storage limits and installation across jurisdictions. And contractors and installers can check with their local municipalities to determine what codes are enforced and any compliance concerns as well. We will provide a resource in just the next slide to check the relevant building code. Finally, there will be the new refrigerant recovery, reclamation, and destruction criteria developed, which will be focused on the new low GWP refrigerant as well.
Yeah, a lot of things happening in the refrigerant sector in this next year, in particularly.
Correct. HRI recently came out with this building code map. We found this to be very, very useful. So even though the AIM Act was passed several years ago, the local building codes and state legislations they still need to be updated to allow low GWP refrigerant equipment to be installed in buildings. So most states in the United States are now allowing low GWP refrigerant, and you can still find up-to-date information on the HRI website which we can possibly provide in the chat or links as well.
Absolutely. And that's what we refer to a lot when people ask. So we get the questions, hey, is my state prepared? It's moving so fast in some areas, it's best to stay with one common location. So we tend to send people over to the A2L Refrigerant Building Code map as well. So we'll try to put that in here in a little bit for the audience.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. All right. So impact on the 410A equipment after the January 1st, 2026. So under the EPA sector-specific prohibitions, the AMAC enforcement may vary depending on the type of installation. For products, this pertains to a factory-completed appliances.
Sure.
The example includes a self-contained appliance like our Bosch IDP unit or a standard rooftop unit as well. For a system, this pertains to a field assembled equipment. Example would include the residential split system AC or heat pumps, like our IDS system. And for components, this pertains to a mechanical system element. The example include a split system condensing unit, a condenser, compressor, evaporator units, and evaporators.
Yep, typical
system. Yeah, good. There is a 3-year sell-through for these products, including factory-assembled package equipments. However, components manufactured or imported for service or maintenance are exempt from that.
Yeah. So we'll still have to have some components around. So we're going to see some slightly different terminology between systems and our components going forward. And just to understand that when we're talking about A2L, we're going to be talking primarily about our systems, which are what we're going to be looking at. And we'll dive into what that looks like for system comparisons, and when we're talking about 410A and 454 systems. And we'll get into that. Good question, Mr. Tebby. We'll get into that one here in just a little bit when we start talking about training and requirements going forward. Good question, though. Thank you.
All right. So some of the compliances, even though regulation has passed, there are still amendments or a couple of amendments which are currently actually just recently got updated, or are still being proposed, waiting for approval. So under the original regulation, we could not install or sell 410A equipment on the firmly residential system as of January 1st, 2025.
Right.
However, under the updated regulations, we are now allowed to sell and install the systems in residential applications through December 31, 2025. So gives our installers a little bit of time period to transition to the new refrigerant. Also, under the current regulation, we can manufacture, import, sell, install the products for services or repair indefinitely. The proposed change requests that regulation bans the manufacture and import of R410A condensing units, including service and repair as of January 1st, 2025. The HVAC industry will likely ask the EPA to initiate and finalize rulemaking with industry proposed changes.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so we intend to see something on that here in the near future, but we want people to understand what this really means. It means that as far as new equipment, we're probably not going to see any manufactured equipment after December 31st of this year. So what is being manufactured of 410 right now is going to be the last generation of R410A systems. There will still be some individual components for serviceability going forward, but those new systems will not be manufactured. So the only R410A systems that will be around will be that sell-through in that little 12-month window. So our 410A is just going to be going away in a hurry. And I think most of the industry is unaware of that. And that's the important part of doing this with our manufacturers, because a lot of people go, oh, I heard from this place that it's going to happen. I heard from this place that it's not going to happen. We actually have manufacturers that are sitting here trying to clarify it for everyone, going, well, whatever you've heard, this is what you're actually going to see. So thank you so much for this. All right, so we're going to transition back again, and I will see you all here in just a few minutes. All right. So let's dive a little deeper now into what we are going to be utilizing in our new equipment with Honeywell.
Yeah, so I think that was a very helpful overview from our Bosch experts on the regulations and the changing landscape. So as we are here today, Honeywell's newest offering is the Solstice 454B, which is the refrigerant. It's an A2L refrigerant that's designed to replace R410A. However, I just want to point out that this refrigerant can only be used in new equipment. So it is not a retrofit solution. only meant for new equipment, and again, can be used in a wide variety of different HVAC applications, from mini splits to unitary systems to heat pumps, such as the water source heat pumps recently launched by Bosch, as well as in rooftop packaged units, chillers, the DX chillers, and also the VRF commercial systems that tend to be much larger systems. So with 454B, it does have an ASHRAE classification of A2L, making it mildly flammable. However, from a GWP standpoint, it offers a 78% reduction in GWP compared to the R410A, which is currently the most widely used refrigerant in these HVAC applications. So really a big drop there, and a very good refrigerant in terms of how it performs compared to 410A as well. So we'll get into some of those details in the next few slides with our experts, Ron and Doug here.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Anjali. Yeah, this is just a quick recap of the differences between 410A and 454B. You can see in the left column there the components in 454B. Got R32 and YF. YF is the refrigerant that's most likely in your car if you've bought it in the last, around 10 years.
Yeah.
So interesting thing is 410A is a mixture of R32 and R125, 50-50.
That's right.
And then you see our percentages, 68.9 and 31.1, very, very concise. And that's to match up with 410A as best as we can. And you can see that we really got close. The GWP, Anjali said 78%. You can do the math there, 2,088 to 466, really good drop. Capacity, essentially the same. COP, the efficiency is slightly better. The discharge pressure is a little lower. As a slight bit of glide, 1.8 degrees, but we've been dealing with refrigerants with 7, 8, 9 degrees of glide for many years. If anybody needs help with glide, we've got some great training information on glide. So if they have trouble with that, give us a call. Yep. And then you've got the LFL. You can see there 11.25. That's a volume in percent that has to be in the air for it to even get any type of flame whatsoever. And Bosch talked about that earlier, and we'll go into that, what that LFL means in a little bit later. So
yeah. Indeed. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that there was glide with R410A. We didn't educate that enough, but we absolutely had glide because it was that blended refrigerant of 32 and 125. So we are still going to have some glide. It's going to be minimal. And so it's very important as technicians to be able to understand what glide does in respect to subcooling and superheat, because it will change a few things, and it's very important to know. So if you have any struggles with understanding glide, we highly encourage you to just hang in with us, join the conversations, connect with Honeywell, connect with Bosch. We've got some training videos out there. We've done quite a few things with the actual A1, A2L classifications. So there's a lot of training resources to keep you aware of the installation and best practices when we're talking about glide.
And interesting thing, I always say it, the 400 series, so those that don't know, all the 400 series have glide.
Exactly.
All the 500 series have no glide. So just a little tidbit there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, everybody probably has seen the graph on the left. This is from ASHRAE. You've got the first column there, the lower toxicity column. Those are all A's. Those are all basically non-toxic. And then you've got the numbers, 1, 2L, 2, and 3. Those are indications of the flammability. You go over in the right column, you've got the B's. B is toxic, and then the numbers mean the same thing. So ammonia is a B2L, so it's toxic. People forget it's also mildly flammable. They forget about the mildly flammable because they worry about the toxicity.
They worry about toxicity. Very good point.
So the A1s, you're used to those, 448A, 410A, 134A, R22 was an A1, 404A, 507, all those were A1s. So that's what you're used to. And these refrigerants we're talking about today that we're going to in the future are A2Ls, 454B, you see it in the yellow there. That's the one going to be primarily used for HVAC. 454C and 455A will be used for more for refrigeration.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing we get when we talk to end users, customers, contractors, is they see A2L, they see the word flammable, and they're like, no, I don't want it, forget about it, I'm not going to have anything to do with it, because they don't really understand the levels of flammability. So we've got a couple videos here that kind of show the difference. People are used to propane, they're used to isobutane, you cook with it, they're used to what that can do, what that flammability is, and they think everything is that way. And we're going to show you that, no, it's not all that way.
Right.
So this is inside of a refrigerator. The little black line on the left is the door of the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
You see that little flame that just went up on the top?
A little bit of pressure from that, yeah.
That's an A2L quote blowing up, right?
Right.
You can see the door open up a little bit. That's the pressure from that explosion, if you will. So this is YF. This is similar to the 454B, 111 grams in this refrigerator that we're leaking.
Okay.
So this is not a repeat. This is a continuous loop. We're leaking, and just nothing seriously bad happens, right?
Sure. With a high amount of ignition. Got to remind the people that that's a significant amount of ignition that's being utilized to even attempt to get this A2L to do anything. Okay.
Exactly. And then we've got the other one.
The other one. Let me go grab that one real quick. And
this is isobutane, half the charge.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see that there's a slight difference here in what happens.
And make sure that you prepare your ears. I'll turn the volume down just a little bit on this one because first time I watched this one.
And propane's a good refrigerant. We're not trying to knock it. It's just flammability is different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a lot different than an A2L.
That's a lot different. And that's why AHR did all the work. AHRI did all the work to test this to make sure that the A2Ls really can be safe. And I think Bosch is going to get into the mitigation measures. There are some differences to make sure it's, really make sure it's safe. But as far as flammability goes, the difference between an A2L and A3 is extremely significant, as you can see. We can talk about things like ignition energy and flame speed and all that stuff. When we first started doing this, we talked about that.
Yes.
You just don't get a sense of what it means, right?
No, absolutely.
You can skip that one. Okay. That previous slide was talking about
back there. Sorry about that.
About charge limits. So we talked about safety with A2Ls. So we've got ASHRAE 15, safety standard for refrigeration. It's got rules about A2Ls, right? And then it also, for commercial systems, it refers to listed equipment. And by listed, they mean most of the time UL listed. And so the UL standard has got these things called M1, M2, and M3. And those are different masses of the refrigerant in general. And you can see the numbers there, 13 times LFL, 52 times LFL, and 260 times LFL. Those are three different charges. So that's where the LFL is so important. So each refrigerant will have a different charge limit.
Yeah,
based on the LFL. Right. And the stuff on this slide has to do with refrigeration. HVAC is slightly smaller as far as the calculation goes, but it's the same concept.
Right.
So, I think the Bosch equipment, they can chime in here. I think the Bosch equipment, it's got enough charge that they're doing some mitigation, and they're going to go into that.
Absolutely.
And detailing a little bit here. And the M1 charge, basically, if you've got that, you don't have to really do anything. There's such a small amount of charge that there's no risk. You don't have to put in leak detection or anything. M2, you have to do leak detection, some solenoid valves. Then M3, hundreds of pounds, you have to do ventilation and other things. So
indeed. So most of the time we're going to be dealing with our M1, our M2, and from the literature that I see on the residential split systems on M1, it's around, if I remember, I think it's 4.1 pounds for R4.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
3.9 for 32. So under that limit, it's not even required. And so above that, then we're going to see some mitigation. But we will talk about mitigation here in just a little bit.
And different manufacturers are doing different things. Some are putting the mitigation on regardless. So we'll see what Bosch has to say on it. This is a great, the table is good on the left, but the graph really says it all.
Yeah, I can see that.
This is 410 and 454B. The horizontal axis is the temperatures.
Yep.
And the vertical one is the pressures. And you can see they're really neck and neck.
Very similar, isn't it?
They're very similar. And, if you were a technician in the field and you didn't know it was 454B, I don't know. You'd have to be pretty good to notice the difference.
Yeah.
Right? They're very, very close. That's one of the benefits of 454B and why Bosch went with it, is because as far as equipment goes, performance-wise, thermodynamically, very, very close.
Very similar. Yeah. I see that.
This is a plug for our Genetron software. This you can Google Genetron Honeywell software. It's free. You can model any system you want, but we did 410A and 454B here with the equal capacity. And you can see things like mass flow we look at that has to do with expansion valves and how they work. Very similar. The COP you can see with 454B on the right there is higher. So yeah, they're really very close.
And this is for equivalent refrigerant charge?
This is
same refrigerant charge.
Equivalent displacement, compressor displacement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I was noting, so our cooling capacity, heating capacities are almost identical.
Yeah, we set the capacity equal and then see what happens to mass flow and things of that nature.
And performance. So so even heating COP is going to be incredibly close on that.
Yep.
Very close.
That's higher. Yeah. Okay.
Higher is good.
The higher is always good. Better performance is always good.
Angelique's going to chime in on this one too. Also, we're not experts on storage in like a distribution facility, but we have done some research on it. You can see the table on the left. I believe, Clifton, this came from you guys initially, right?
A little familiar. So yes.
Yeah, we prettied up the table a little bit. But
Jake's out there right now in the audience with us, so this is kind of his specialty.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, and again, like Doug mentioned, right, some of this is still in flux. And again, when you talk about storage of A2L refrigerants, mildly flammable liquefied gas, you're really talking about, first of all, what the storage area is, the way you're going to store it, if you're stacking it versus if you're putting it on a shelf. There's different mitigation measures for each different type of storage type, as well as the room in which you're storing it, the size of the room. If you're in a warehouse or a storage area, there's a certain limitation here. As you can see in the table, it's about 20,000 pounds of storage in a non-sprinklered control area, and then 40,000 pounds in a controlled area that's sprinklered. There's specific definitions for what a control area means, how many control areas you can have in a specific facility, with the fire-rated wall systems, and a lot of other specifics that are listed in these codes by the NFPA, the IFC, the IMC, as all of these codes are being updated at this time. And then, of course, the mitigation measures, right? So there's certainly mitigation measures that can be in the form of leak detection systems, having the right signage, having the right SDSs, making sure that you're, essentially that the products that you're storing also have the right count, the right inventory. And there's a lot that goes into this, right? So ultimately, depending on how these codes have been adopted in your jurisdiction, in the area that you're in, we recommend that you consult your local AFJ to get the latest and greatest on, what you can do and how you can store this refrigerant. And that's really it, right? Just keeping tabs with, and just contacting your local AFJ to ensure that those codes have been adopted in your area is the way to go.
Yeah, Angela, if I could chime in and make a point, this is not just A2L specific, right? There is already requirements even for A1 refrigerants on the refrigeration concentration limit. So if you're storing a lot of refrigerant, you need to be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We get a lot of our distributors asking about this, and you would hope that as a nation, we would have all decided at the same time to update the same codes, but it didn't quite happen that way. It's kind of trickling through across the nation. And so it's definitely important to stay up to date with what your local codes are actually utilizing.
Absolutely. And I guess the same can be said about transporting these refrigerants, right? So as with A2Ls, the DOT regulations that have been adopted so far for any sort of mildly flammable refrigerants is that you need to transport these cylinders vertically upright so that the pressure relief device is in contact with the vapor space of the gas in the cylinder. However, as we talk about this, there are also ongoing conversations with the DOT about potentially modifying this, right? Maybe looking at special permits that may be out there that would allow us to ship these cylinders horizontally or at an angle. right? So there's some work that's being done and discussions that are being had on this specific regulation. As the regulation stands, you still need to continue to ship your refrigerant cylinders containing A2L gases upright. That hasn't yet changed. However, there is a special permit that is available. You can Google it. It's on the DOT's special PHMSA website that talks about how you can avail of the special permit and what that would allow you to do in terms of using the cylinders, using gas from the cylinders, and then also laying it flat while you're shipping it out.
We talked to them and they said it's very easy to do it. You get on the website and you could submit for the special permit. Like Anjali said, this is a work in progress, but it may be that every contractor has to go and get the special permit. It's not painful, I don't think. But if you're a contractor out there that wants to continue to lay these cylinders horizontally, then you might want to get ahead of the curve on this. Anjali, would you say that's correct?
Yeah, and I would also say, right, as a refrigerant manufacturer, this is something we're very closely aligned with and working on to essentially identify how we can support the industry in making this as easy and seamless. However, as we understand it, some of these regulations take some time, as we've seen with the codes and the building codes and the mechanical codes as well. They do take some time to be adopted. And, again, we are in constant communication about this specific special permit. So just, as it does get formalized, continue to use best practice that is currently in regulation for the flammable gases. And then as things become more firm, there could be more respite around this.
Yeah, I just made myself a couple notes. I think I can see a DOT conversation here in the near future.
Yeah. Well, they've been very helpful. The last bullet point there, Bosch talked about the AIM Act, and there's them reducing how much HFCs we can make. There's the sector-specific regulations like air conditioning, commercial, et cetera. But there's a third tier that is reclaim that's in process, right? It's not been formalized yet. One of the things they're talking about, just a heads up, is that all contractors would have to return the disposable containers to a replication facility. So keep tuned on that, and their heart's in the right place. They're trying to increase the amount of reclaim in the marketplace, because I believe right now it's below 2%. So we do need to get that up. So more to come on that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hold on just a second, Anjali. Sorry.
Okay, so if you can hear me still, so as we talk about A2L cylinders, there's definitely some things that are changing. Some of you may have already seen it, but just to lay it out for you, with these new A2L cylinders, there's going to be a couple different changes. Number one, which is probably apparent in the way that you're seeing the packages laid out on the slide here, but all the A2L cylinders will have a red stripe painted closer to the shoulder or the neck of the cylinder to indicate that it is a flammable gas. Secondly, these cylinders will also be fitted with a pressure relief valve system, as opposed to a rupture disc, which you might have seen previously on some of the disposable cylinders. So really what the difference there is, a rupture disc would essentially rupture, as the name suggests, once the pressure exceeded that set pressure. But for a pressure relief valve arrangement, it essentially just vents the excess pressure from the cylinder and then it closes back down.
Correct.
So that's really the only difference between the two. Otherwise, the cylinders are as is. And then the third difference that you'll see between regular A1 non-flammable refrigerants and then A2L flammable refrigerants is the outlet connections on the cylinders. So the outlet connections on the A2L cylinders will be left-hand threaded. Again, depending on the size of the cylinder, this is something that, via the AHRI guideline M was recommended to the industry. For smaller cylinders, up to 50 pounds of refrigerant weight, you're going to see a CGA 164 connections. This will also be the case for all the disposable 454B cylinders that you see in the aftermarket. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner here of the slide, you can see a snippet of what that valve looks like, the outlet connection looks like. The CGA 164, it's a 1/4 inch flare. And the adapters are readily available on the market today. to be able to convert that to a right-handed thread as well. And then as you go up in cylinder size, you're going to see the CGA 670 outlet connection on some of the larger cylinders as recommended by the AHRI Guideline M. Again, adapters for that are available on the market. So those are some of the differences that you want to note between the non-flammable and then the new A2L mildly flammable refrigerants that will be coming to market soon. So Doug, I don't know if you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah. People will ask about the equipment. The equipment, as I understand it, and Bosch, chime in if I'm wrong, is right-handed as it is now. So.
Sure. Let me bring Phil in on that real quick.
Right-handed red, I believe so.
Right-handed red.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And the little adapter there, you can see they talk about the knurls on it. They're not solid.
I see a difference in that.
So you can tell the difference, yeah.
Right. So particularly in our residential light commercial technicians, if you're using existing hoses with right-hand thread, you're going to be required to have a left-handed to right-handed adapter for these cylinders. So good point. Beyond the shop, you don't want to be the person on the roof doing the installation and go, we got to have an adapter for this? Wait a minute. No one ever told me that. Well, yes, we did. Right here.
Clifton, there's that, and then there's also the possibility that the tool manufacturers will just make a center hose, say, that could be left-handed thread, so you would not need an adapter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would expect that.
Yeah, I was starting to see a variety of new compatible hoses that are starting to pop up that I'm sure we're going to be incorporating that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so everyone want to catch more about the Solstice R454B and the applications, we encourage you to go check that out. And we're going to swing back over to Bosch, and I'll see you all here in just a few minutes. Maybe, if I get my toggle working properly. There we go. Now we're cooking.
There we go.
Almost. Let me go. There he is. Sorry about that, Phil.
It's all right.
All right, so let's dive a little bit deeper into our actual equipment as we go forward and what the applications look like in our new Bosch product lineups.
Okay, here, by the way, it was an excellent presentation by Honeywell. What I want to focus on a little more technical as pertains to our equipment as far as safety. So really from a safety standpoint, there are 6 factors that should be considered when we discuss our R454B. Some we've talked about already briefly, but we talk about the minimum ignition energy, the lower flammability limit, the heat of combustion, the burning velocity, the concentration level, and the flammability concentration level. All those are important, but this chart shows the minimum ignition that we talk about in millijoules, which is simply a very small amount of electrical energy to ignite on the vertical axis. On the lower axis, we have the lower flammability limit, which is the kilograms per meter cubed. And we'll talk about that shortly. Remember that A2Ls, we've talked about it already, A2L refrigerants such as R54B are inherently difficult to ignite. Also, the MAE, what you're seeing here, measures the amount of the spark energy that's needed to ignite a flammable mixture of our R454B refrigerant, vapor and air, in a particular location based on its volume. So these refrigerants will typically require 100 times more spark energy than what would be required for an A3 such as propane or R290.
Sure.
And they mentioned propane before, you saw it blow up.
Yeah.
So an A3 refrigerant requires a very low MIE. It's actually 0.25 millijoules. So by comparison, if you think about it, a standard automotive spark plug will actually provide between 20 to 30 millijoules of ignition energy. And most of the A2L refrigerants that we see or talk about are difficult to ignite because they have an MIE that is way above that level. So even if we do have basically a component mixture, when we have the right amount of vapor and the right amount of air for the space, we're still going to need enough energy to light it. And in a lot of cases, the voltage spark isn't going to do it. And a high amount of energy is necessary to ignite it, actually, such as an open flame.
Yep.
So in the chart, what you're actually seeing, Clifton, is that the MAE for 454B is determined to be between 100 millijoules and 300 millijoules. and that results in a relatively high MIE rating. That means it is very hard to ignite and thus a very low risk.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll be hearing more of those terms going forward, and it's important to know that there is definitely a difference in those energy ignition points between 32 and 454B.
All right, in this particular side, remember that refrigerants like 454B, they have a lower flammability limit, like we just talked about, that indicates the minimum concentration capable of ignition where we have a sufficient mixture of the gas, the vapor, and the air exists.
Sure.
So the lower flammability limit to us is very important for equipment design and for safety. It's simply expressed as a percentage by volume, with a higher rating being better and offering therefore lower flammability. So the LFL ratings are determined by ASHRAE using their flammability tests. So our 454B refrigerant is actually 6.5 times higher in LFL rating than propane, which is highly explosive. So with our 454B refrigerant, it's really less likely to form any flammable concentrations during its use, and therefore it poses very low fire hazard if it's properly designed, installed, and maintained in equipment, allowing for potentially increased charge levels, as well as increased equipment size applications. So in the chart, the R454B has an LFL value that really is shown at 11.8%, which is relatively high compared to propane. So we must have a decent amount of the leak of the vapor into a place where there's enough air. And in that same place, we also must have some sort of open flame that keeps burning.
Okay. All right. So definitely from the safety aspect, I see where the 454B resolution was made. Decision.
Right. All right. Here we talk about the UL standard. A lot of people have asked me over time, like, okay, well, what's the factory doing? Yeah. Shaz has covered a lot of what that is, but all OEMs like Bosch for HVAC equipment will have to follow the UL standard 60335-2-40. So this is an ANSI SEC approved standard that covers electrical heat pumps, air conditioners, and dehumidifiers. And then what it does, it allows and regulates the use of an A2L refrigerant like our 454B. So it is focused on the safe use of A2Ls in air conditioning equipment. It is the basis for design, evaluation, testing, and certification that we will follow at our factory, our plant, for heat pumps using, low-GWP refrigerants. And it outlines safety requirements, protection from electrical shock and fire hazard. So when they're testing the equipment on the line, they'll be testing things like loss of charge, non-metallic material flammability and proximity to other electrical connections, even in the machine, power input and current, heating, abnormal temperatures, electric heating, like heater coils, and then glow wires. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a standard that every manufacturer is going to be looking at as they are producing equipment. Because I've had contractors call and make the statement, "Oh, I'm not going to go to that A2L. I'm just going to find another manufacturer." Well, no, you're not. Every manufacturer is going to be relooking at their equipment and looking at the standards, and they're going to be making their decisions on the manufacturing products that they're going to use.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Clifton. So when we talk about servicing from our standpoint, all of the systems will be built to utilize A2L refrigerant or 454B. And really, guys and ladies out there, they may appear identical in a lot of cases to other systems that are using A1 refrigerants, but an increased focus on safety, therefore, is required.
Yes.
So all new equipment for A2L refrigerants, some may include leak detection. We'll talk about that. Some may have forced fan modes and automatic isolation valves. A2L refrigerants are regulated under the EPA 608 that requires recovery instead of venting during handling and transportation.
Absolutely.
Anytime we have repair and installation of equipment, you're going to always have to use original OEM components that are designed for potentially flammable atmospheres. And only certified service equipment, such as mentioned before, reclamation and recovery equipment for A2L refrigerant should be utilized. And the adherence to manufacturer recommendations and the safety data sheets for hazard mitigation It's totally dependent on the charge size and the equipment location.
Yep, definitely. We've seen a lot of that, and it's going to dictate what the equipment changes are going to look like. So, speaking of equipment changes, let's dive into a little bit of what we're going to see in equipment changes.
All right, Chaz touched on a lot of this before, but basically the impact on the Bosch equipment after the 1st of January of 2026. So on the left, you have the headings at the top of the machines that we have. And then the classification on the left, it says, can it be sold or distributed after 1/1/2026? So an IDP or a water source heat pump is a self-contained packaged product in a lot of cases. We do offer a split water source heat pump as well. But they are considered a product, and they can be sold actually until January 21, 2028. But then when we talk about IDS ODUs, then that is considered, as Chaz said, a component, but it can be sold as a component after 1/1/2026. The IDS indoor unit, the air handler that goes with the outdoor unit, or the case coil that would be attached to the top of an existing or a new gas furnace, they are also considered components and can be sold or distributed after the 1st of January 2026. Mini split, we offer, of course, the Climate 5000 mini split system, which is a coupled outdoor unit, as well as multiple types of mini split air handlers. They are also considered components, and both of those can be sold after 1/1/26. Then when we talk about the IDS outdoor unit and indoor unit, when they're together, they're actually referred to as a system.
Correct.
So that is not applicable. After 1/1/26, we cannot sell them as a system. However, we can sell them as separate components. And when we talk about that, that's really for, service issues and replacement.
That's our service and replacement parts.
And then we also have the same effect for the mini splits as well.
Okay.
All right. To touch on where we're going with the A2L strategy and our portfolio plan, for our IDS, inverted ducted split systems, of course, you'll have the condenser and the air handler. All of those we have decided at Bosch, but for safety, all of the air handlers, all of the indoor coils will have factory installed A2L sensors on the evaporator coil. When we have a gas furnace or a third-party furnace, either ours or someone else's, then we'll have a condenser outside, and it'll be coupled with a case coil on top of the furnace. There will be a field installed accessory, A2L accessory kit, that will basically start the blower of the furnace and shut down the compressor of the condenser if there is a leak. Now, the IDS and case coil and furnace, it includes a factory installed A2L sensor on that evaporator coil in that case coil. Excellent. When we move to the Climate 5000 mini splits, we have determined and decided that all the units will include the A2L sensor on the evaporator coils in the air handlers as well. And that directly connects to the indoor unit's control board. Okay. In our water source heat pumps, we range from a half a ton up to 60 tons. So the equipment will include any water source heat pump that has over 4 pounds of refrigerant, 64 ounces, will have a factory installed leak detection sensor installed internally and connected to that particular unit's controller. But that means that some factories are saying, we'll put them on all the water source smaller than 4 pounds, but we determined that really shouldn't be necessary if it's properly sized, installed, and operating correctly. Other factories have it as an option, but we will not require it. So remember the combination here: air source heat pumps, A2L sensors; water source heat pumps, 4 pounds and larger.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've actually went above and beyond, because that 4 pound requirement puts you in that M1 standard. So technically you wouldn't even had to have installed those A2L sensors on the other products under 4 pounds. But I've seen this, as many of our manufacturers are starting to look at this going, you know what, we're just going to make sure. We're going to be extra safe, and we're just going to convert our entire product line over. So I've been kind of anticipating that, but now we know for sure. So we're going to see our refrigerant leak detection sensors on all of our split systems, our ductless systems, and we will see them on our water source above 4 pounds in the Bosch product line.
That's correct.
Very clear.
Now, one other thing about that, when we go to the water source, the people that are familiar with our water source heat pumps, with a control board in our heat pumps is called a unit protection module. It will now have a connector port plug for the A2L sensor on the new control board.
Sure, makes sense.
All right, when we talk about the actual sensors themselves, we're going to use a brand that's called Cubic, and their version is the AM4205 series.
Yep.
Now, basically, this is for all our residential and commercial heat pumps. The sensor is about 3 by 2.3 inches times 3/4 inches thick. It can quickly it's small.
Yeah.
It can actually quickly and accurately detect a leak from 0 to 100% of that refrigerant's LFL, lower flammability limit. It'll also be factory calibrated for immediate use for units with the sensor. It'll also be equipped with internal temperature sensors and an internal heater. It's compatible with R454B, of course, and has an accuracy range of plus or minus 2.5% of the LFL. The big thing to me is that it responds in 30 seconds or less and has an operating temperature range of minus 40 to plus 185 degrees, and therefore it is designed for long-term use.
Absolutely. One of the questions that we do get periodically is, I know that it's new. We haven't even launched all of the products, and so there's still a lot of testing to be done. Is there any anticipation on life expectancy on these? We do get that question periodically, and we haven't had, at least for us, we haven't had a designated answer on those.
I haven't not had a designated answer yet, but of course we can look at that.
Sure.
But I think they'll last as long as the machine will. Hope so.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, that's just some things that we get very often. I just haven't had an answer for that one.
All right. So what it comes down to us is Bosch equipment changes, what to know. What I'm focused on here is what do the contractors and the technicians need to know.
Yes.
This is what we actually expect. We want you to become knowledgeable, if you will, familiar of the phase down, the HFC phase down for R410A that we're involved with right now, and therefore the move to A2L that we're doing. You should be able to recognize the R454B cylinders by sight. You should always read and understand the safety data sheets before you handle any refrigerant. You need to understand that this refrigerant will be used in our equipment that is specifically designed for that refrigerant. You must always follow our Bosch literature that includes both our installation and operation manuals, referring to our engineering submittal sheets and so forth, and you must always utilize installations and field service equipment for reclamation recovery that are designed and rated for use with A2L refrigerant.
Okay, I seen a question come in earlier. I'm trying to find it right now from Mr. Tom Tebby. Will there be requirements? Because this is really the big stipulation in the industry, because we're kind of waiting on the EPA to see if the EPA has a requirement, because we're really kind of anticipating that to come through through the AIM Act. So a lot of our distributors have taken their own stances on training and certifications. What has Bosch determined on A2L training and certification?
Well, I can handle it. Chaz?
Yeah, as you mentioned, there's currently no requirement, but if we go to the next slide, we, as at Bosch, we're definitely anticipating a lot of those requirements and those changes, but we want to make sure proactively we are providing as much resource material, educational material that is available. We, of course, understand, as we just reviewed through this, this is a big change. Yes. Even though even in performance may not change a whole lot. But as a manufacturer, we're still committed to ensuring that our installers are comfortable installing these products. So we will be providing education and relevant content to the HVAC industry, of course, partnering with you, Honeywell, everybody on that side. So we have already started to transmit a lot of the A2L change information. Our webpage, our website, it has a lot of good content. It is loaded with great resources, FAQs and whatnot. I'm sure ESCO and Honeywell also has a similar kind of resources. Also, I know like the recording of this webinar will be available in various different channels. And people can refer to that. We'll be providing hands-on training as soon as our equipment starts to roll out. Yeah. Our first round of equipment, our first water source equipment with R454B just got released. which is there was a model CLRL. It is now available for order as well, and we are providing hands-on training. So please reach out to our training team and to our technical team as well. We can provide their contact information here. And we're also looking to develop other educational courses, certification courses as well through the web-based training. So stay tuned for that. We'll be communicating that to the market.
All right, fantastic. That's a lot of stuff to go through. I'm going to bring in the entire team. Let's hang out for a little bit and let's answer some questions. There's a lot of people still out here, so I'm sure there are a variety of things that we should wrap up with. So I'll open up the chat. Oh, there we go. Look at that one. There's a quick link for that. Let me go ahead and get this out of our way so that it's just all of us right now, not just me. Let's get everybody. And let's see what we've got out here for some conversational items. Oh, okay, on the sell-through. So that was one of the things that we kind of talked about earlier. So we have the January 1st, 2025, no new installed systems with a 12-month sell-through on individual components. And so you will have that 12-month. Originally, we didn't even have that. And the industry rallied and that was transitioned. So we are only going to see that one for those 12 months of sell-through of those R410A products in 2025. Oh, here's a good one. Does existing R410A split systems need to be replaced, or is there a retrofit kit for the indoor coils or the indoor units?
I don't believe so. R410A split system, they don't need to be replaced, but they cannot be replaced with R454B equipment. So R410A equipment would be, if they need to be serviced, the parts and components will still be available in the market, of course, as just components only.
Absolutely. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for the questions to come through on the other side, so we'll give it a few more minutes. I do have a variety of questions. Let me get this pulled up and see if maybe we can grab them from here. Okay, here's another one that just came through while I'm loading this one. So this one actually comes back into our refrigerant manufacturers. When will the refrigerant 454B be available through our distributors? And let me open that one up because I got a feeling Angelique's probably going to hop on.
Yeah, Angelique, when are those going to be ready?
Clifton, you know me well, but jugs of 454B, Solstice 454B, are available in the market today. So if you are looking to place an order for the 454B jugs, reach out to your Honeywell sales rep. Yeah, we're ready to go. We're excited to bring this product to market and support the industry transition.
Absolutely. So this is the question that does come in, and I do get this one periodically. So I've been studying installation manuals from equipment manufacturers, and this might be one that can be covered today. I don't know if you can answer this one, Phil, or not. So when it comes to using existing R410A line sets on new 454B installations, I believe, Joe, this is the question that you're bringing in. Can we reutilize an existing line set?
Yes, you can use an existing line set as long as it's properly sized and considerations for what you're attaching it to. Of course, they're going to have to recover the refrigerant. They're going to have to flush and purge the line set, and then they're going to have to probably purge it with nitrogen and then flood it with our 454B. So in this case, it could be reused. They're saying swap out. I'm not talking about swapping out the equipment. Just reusing the line set itself is possible.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I think in ASHRAE 15, depending on the application, there's some protection requirements for the piping. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you don't want a forklift running into this piping. So,
right.
But as far as line size, be fine.
Yeah, good question.
If it was working before, it'll work.
Exactly. So another question that just came through so we talk about this happening here in the United States. Is there a global phase out of R410A equipment?
Well, it'll be completely phased out in January 2025 in the U.S., but globally, the goal is for other countries to reach 15 to 20% of their individual original baseline for HFCs and remain there by 2036. So that could change over time, but there are links for EPA that can be shared with people to discuss that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know through like the technology transition rule we're seeing here in the U.S., we're actually going to be more strict on those regulations that were set by the Kigali Amendment. So, and the AIM Act for the reduction of HFC refrigerants, we're going to be starting to utilize these refrigerant GWP standards for equipment. That's where a lot of this comes from, is from our technology transition rule. So I don't know that I have a link on that one. I'll see if we can't possibly find that link for the technology transition rule. So if anyone wants to look at where we are currently with that, that's a good one to keep apprised of. So another one that was asked. So with 454B, it's classified as an HFO. What does HFO mean?
Okay, I can answer that at a Honeywell. I'll try. HFO to me stands for hydrofluoroolefin. I think I said it right. And that's a combination of hydrogen, fluorine, and carbon. But unlike HFCs, HFOs have zero ODP and a low GWP. Therefore, it makes them more environmentally friendly than HFCs. They also don't trap heat in the atmosphere, and they don't contribute to global warming.
Exactly. Another question came in. Can R454B be introduced into an existing R410A system because there's currently no replacement refrigerants for R410A? That's a big question.
No.
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 Simple answer.
All in unison. 3, 2, 1.
No.
Yeah, if you go back to the discussion around certifying the equipment, right? It has to be certified for A2L, and no retrofit option.
And
people are used to that. They're used to the R22.
Yes.
Went away, and we have replacements. 404, we have replacements. But in this case, it's a higher pressure gas, low GWP. It's just it's right now we don't have a equivalent product that's an A1.
There's a no drop in.
Exactly.
Yep.
So more to come on that when we do have any information, if there even is any, because the conversations that I've had with our chemists and engineers at our chemical manufacturers is that we don't have a good option for any R410A replacements that are going to meet any of the GWP requirements. So we're very limited on the resources that we have. Now, I do have a question I'm going to bring in. We actually kind of discussed this pre-show, and I'm going to touch this one very lightly, Lowell, because it was brought up and a lot of technicians are starting to ask this question. So what we're starting to see in the industry in the tool side is a lot of questions around what is certified and what is compatible. So I think I will ask that be asked of the tool manufacturers. So let's think about this when we talk about the standards, right? We're talking about equipment that is utilized for the installation and servicing of A2L, mildly flammable refrigerants. I would ask to relook at your manufacturers to see what of their tools have been classified as A2L compatible, because you'll find that there are many tools that we are already using that have no spark, no ignition, designed to them. And so there is a lot of question and a lot of conversation and even a little bit of controversy over what is certified and what is compatible. So go to your tool manufacturers, look at the tools that they are utilizing and ask the question of our tool manufacturers. And as we get a little closer to a clear definition on that, I'll actually do a show and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that one. It's a very, very good question that needs some conversation though, for sure. All right, boy, that's a lot of stuff. Any final things we'd like to discuss? Any final comments we'd like to get out there? I know some things are going to come through in the chat and I'll try to catch them later. I don't want everyone hanging on too long. We went over, but everyone's still hanging in. So everyone's really curious what we're doing with our new refrigerants and new equipment. So we thank you so much for being here on this one.
I would just like to make one remark regarding this. I think it seems, as I mentioned, there is a lot of changes to be considered in terms of equipment because it's indeed a new refrigerant and requires new models to be released. But in terms of performance, in terms of a lot of the processes, not a lot is changing. It's a lot of the similar kind of like best practices which are now being required. So there are, I'm sure, a lot of the manufacturers, distributor we'll come together and train and provide all the resources possible. But it's not to be overwhelmed. And there will be a lot of information available as we move forward through this transition.
Absolutely. Here's a good comment, a question that came up from Joe. I think I'll grab that one real quick just to help clarify that, Joe. So on the training and certification, the EPA, boy, we're really waiting on some final ruling on the EPA, what that will look like. But I can tell you that our Solstice 454 jugs that will be coming through Johnstone Supply will actually have a QR sticker on them that will get you access into the ESCO low GWP safety training. So some distributors are opting to do training on the refrigerants. Some of them have required that you go through training to purchase. Many have not. So it's kind of the Wild West at the moment, but that's because we are all, as manufacturers, as distributors, as contractors, we're all sitting here waiting for the final ruling that the EPA could do through the AIM Act. So yeah, definitely a lot on that right now, but there is definitely training coming through on some of your cylinders or refrigerants through certain distributors, not at the manufacturer side, but there have been distributors that have taken that as an opportunity to just provide more training on what this looks like going forward. Okay, I see Angelique.
Yeah, no, the only other thing I was going to add and just kind of, add on to what Shaz said earlier, which is there's a lot going on with this industry transition. And to your point, Clifton, we're, all ready to come together to support the industry transition and provide the resources that we can to support everybody out in the field to feel comfortable doing this. I know Ron and Doug are our technical experts here. They've been out on the road as well, doing a lot of these A2L trainings. So if you are interested in learning more, getting more information, again, just reach out to us. Our contact information should be here, and we'll do our best to help you in whatever way we can.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So please contact Honeywell. Please contact Bosch. All these links will be shareable throughout. We encourage you to connect with them and learn more. Get prepared for this because we are already seeing our equipment. And as new products are launched, we'll start having further conversations about that. So thank you all so much. Oh, thank you, Bosch, for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. We're so glad to have our manufacturers here with us. It makes this entire community feel united. When we think back about like the R410A transition, we didn't have this type of community development where manufacturers, distributors, contractors, educators all rallied together and said, I need to know about this. And the right source, the first-hand information, would now stepping up going, well, let me tell you, let me show you. And so I'm very thankful to have both of you here. Look forward to many conversations. And I think we'll go ahead and wrap that up for a day. So Bosch, Honeywell, we are so grateful that you joined us today.
Yeah, and thank you, Clifton.
Thanks, Clifton.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. And we will see you all again next week on Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. Bye, everybody.
Bye.